Hey there, Kevin. I was watching Leighton Flowers, and a lot of times he'll bring up an argument against Calvinism that, in Calvinism, God would have determined for a lot of his children to believe wrongly. That is, to believe not in Calvinism. And I was thinking about that and came up with a wager argument against belief in exhaustive divine determinism. EDD, as I'll refer to it from now on. So basically, there's two options. Either you believe in EDD or you don't. Now, if you believe in EDD and it's true, then you're correct. If you don't believe in it and it's not true, then you're correct. But now, if you believe in it and it's false, then you're wrong, but you could have been correct if you had believed that it was false. But if you don't believe in EDD, and EDD is true, then you're wrong, but you could not have been correct, because you were determined to believe that it was false. So that means the only way that you could be wrong, as in you can be wrong, but it could have been right, is if you believe in EDD and EDD is not true. Therefore, you should always try not to believe in EDD, because if you can not believe in EDD, then you're either right or you could not have failed to be wrong. Now, another point that he often brings up is the Calvinist claim to sovereignty. And the point he usually makes is that when the Bible translated as sovereign Lord, that's just was their stylistic choice. Instead of translating it Lord, Lord, they translated it as sovereign Lord. And of course, that's a fine argument. But I was thinking, if it is true, so it's sovereign, does that really give the Calvinists what they need? Because let's think about, like, the ruler of a country is the sovereign over the country. If the ruler decides not to pass a law, is the leader any less sovereign? It was his choice. So if you're saying that God is sovereign, he must determine everything. You're saying that if he didn't determine something, he wouldn't have had the choice to determine it. Well, where are you getting that from? The sovereign just means that he has authority. So he could choose to determine it. But, he has to determine it. Ironically, you could say in some sense that saying he has to determine it, if he's sovereign, gives him less authority because he doesn't have the authority to choose not to determine it. Of course, he can't violate his character anyway, so it's not really too much of an argument, I guess. But now, going back to the wager argument, there are a number of people who aren't fond of wager arguments because they'll say, well, it doesn't really feel like an honest way of getting to the truth. Particularly with Pascal's wager, you'll hear people saying, well, it's not really the right reason to believe in God. But I think this argument is a little bit different. Because determinism has got the same problem as naturalistic evolution does with Darwin's doubt, where you can't really trust in your own reasoning. Because your beliefs, particularly with ADD, your beliefs aren't really determined by arguments, but they're determined by whatever God has determined that you're going to believe. So if you're going to say the wage argument is a bad argument, on determinism, it holds basically exactly the same weight as a good argument for forming your beliefs, which is none. But if determinism is false, then the argument will lead you to the truth. So either it's exactly the same, holds exactly the same weight in forming your beliefs as a good argument, which is none on determinism, or it leads you to the correct belief.